Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Swissman15, and welcome back to another episode of Factions in Depth. This episode, I have Kipuka here, or right now Kit Junkers, and all the names that start with Kit. So please introduce yourself, Kit, and remind me as I intake more helium.
Hello, I'm Kit, or Kit Junkers, that's how you pronounce it, because it's a German name, but...
Sorry, Junkers, I'm so sorry.
Uh,
I love
yeah,
this voice.
but yeah, it's all good. Junkers will do, that's what most people say. But yeah, Kit Buka, that's who I am, basically.
Yeah, so here we're here to talk about Egypt today. Another Factions in Depth, so I hope you guys enjoy. So let's get straight into it. We'll be talking about Cav. So I think we have to go straight into Mamluks, really, is the basic Cav. So what do you have to say about them, Kipuka?
Well, obviously there are two types. So you have the standard Mamluks, which are a faster horse, which I like to use as like a medium Cav. They have maces, so that's nice. And then you have also, obviously, the Royal Mamluks, which I don't know if I'm right in saying, but I think if you upgrade them fully, they're the best Cav in the game. Is that right?
Yes, that is pretty much accurate. And on that note, if you play as Russia or Egypt and you get fully upgraded Sarsgaard or Royal Mamluks and then use it as a tactic with a rush, I will instinctively have no respect for you because I've been testing them out recently and they seem like it's almost broken. I don't want to be hating on it, but the only times I really lose consistently, and by a landslide consistently, I mean, is when people use that. So that's against Criminal Copy Kill. That's when I lost against Vlad in the tournament. It's when they have those really upgraded 2 Eastern Cavs, and I don't know how it works. So I don't really have respect for it right now because I've been testing it, and they literally walk over other units. They beat Teutonic Knights with fully upgraded, including experience, and they smash them. So it's crazy. Keep going if you have anything more to say.
So I think the thing is that you have to make a distinction between Russia and Egypt because obviously they're different factions, and I think Egypt in general is overall a much worse faction than Russia is. And the fact that if you have upgraded Royal Mamluks, they cost a lot, and if you combine that with the overall faction, I don't think they're OP. But I think with Russia, there's definitely an argument.
I mean, there's no doubt that Royal Mamluks are super powerful, and if you get them on your own, they're very, very, without many upgrades, maybe an armor or an attack, they will do incredibly well, usually winning the melee if you use them well, especially with the regular Mamluks to support them on the side. But of course, with the full upgrades, they cost a little bit more than Teutonic Knights do, fully upgraded, which people get all the time, and they have really cheap overall with Naphtha tunes and Tabateria, which we'll get into later. So I do think if you get full upgrades on them, it makes it a little OP, but let's not debate about that now. But overall, we can agree that they have really strong Cav as a base.
Yeah, but that's one of the things the developers got right, because obviously Eastern Cav was notoriously strong. So
yes, and then also speaking of their Cav, they have the Mamluk Archers. I haven't had much experience with them, but I know they also have maces, which is a wonderful thing to have, especially as a melee missile Cav, so that they can fight in a melee. Do you use them often, those Mamluk Archers?
No, not at all. Like if you're allowed 6 Cav, then you just use Raw Mamluks and then the bodyguards. But then if you have more than that, you can use the standard Mamluks. So there's not really any use for them, in my opinion.
Yeah, missile Cav takes a long time to use, and I think Egypt is best used as a rush faction since they don't have crossbows that can compete with Western European factions. So what you really need is to rush. Either you can rush the Vladian way with the crazy upgraded Cav, which I won't respect you for, or you can do it. I think that I first saw Swedish do it, so I'll just give credit to Swedish Lanchnet, where he just had Tabateria and Saracen Militia fully upgraded with Naphtha tunes behind them, and of course the Egyptian Cav to help them up. So that's also a nice rush to use. But they also have a nice mercenary unit, the Khwarezmian Cavalry, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Usually, since it can't get armor upgrades, but it does have a mace, or doesn't actually, it might have a sword.
Yeah, it has like a scimitar thing. It doesn't have a mace, so.
Oh, that makes me sad. But it's only 750, and for what it does, sometimes in like early period, I think it's available in early period.
That's I was going to say, is it early period? Because if it is, then it's a strong unit.
Mm-hmm. So if you're in an early period battle, you can always use Egypt with that nice, pretty good medium tier cavalry. Any other cav units that I'm missing of Egypt?
Um, can I make a quick point?
Yes.
It's not obviously it's not strictly relevant, but I think the use of horse archers in general is limited in vanilla because, for example, in the stainless steel mod, they've some of the horse archers have an extremely long range. So, for example, the Mongol ones, so it makes them a lot more useful because they don't get so close where the crossbows just mow them to pieces. So I think overall the Mamluk archers are just stay away. I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a limited use with the archers, and
Yeah.
uh, maybe you get one or two just to harass, and it really depends how you use them. If you're Paladin Bob, or poor Bob left, but anyway, he used them really well in the past, so it
Yeah.
really depends how you use them. But moving on to the infantry, which there isn't much to say since it is Egypt.
It is literally it's terrible. It's like even if you have the most elite units. Actually, there is one unit I must say though that's good. Is the Sudanese tribesmen.
Oh yes, I do love them.
Yes, they are amazing.
They
And go on.
Yeah, they don't have the greatest morale since they are a mercenary unit, but they do have decent stats. And of course, if you do back them with Naphthatunes, that's all you need to do is they will hold the line.
Yeah.
So they really do that function, and they run really fast for infantry. So what were you gonna say, Kipuka?
So we did a siege. It was with some people from TeamSpeak, and it was Gothic Knights versus Sudanese tribesmen, and I think 90% of the Gothic Knights died.
Oh,
So that just puts into perspective how cost-effective Sudanese tribesmen are.
yeah, they're only like 310, very very cheap, and early period too. So
Yeah, they're great.
they're a very useful useful unit. But also going on to the standard unit that you will always see in every Egyptian army ever, the Tabaderia.
Yeah,
Um, Two-handed axe unit, pretty good stats and pretty cheap for two-handed axe even. So of course it suffers from the two-handed glitch, but considering the Egyptian infantry, it can really hold well. It actually has good morale, which is nice. So it's a very powerful unit. What say you on them?
but because I play Egypt a lot, I think I'm safe in saying they're probably the best unit. Oh, actually, no, Hashishim. I don't know. I can't tell the difference. If you take cost into account, I think Tabdirir is a better unit, but Hashishim obviously good. It's just you have to protect them from Cav. But in terms of the Tabdirir, I think they're obviously they're really cheap. If you put armor on them, they will hold longer than without.
And
Uh,
also, they look 10 times cooler. Just throwing it
yeah,
out there.
that's true. That is true. Yeah, they're really. If you combine them with Nafatu and Saracen militia, and once your Cavs done the job, that's pretty much how you win with Egypt.
Yeah,
So,
Egypt is about just delaying the enemy infantry or routing them with Naphthatunes while your Cav does all the work.
yeah,
Um, it's a very niche player, but niche play, and it's only super effective when you use the Vladian style of over crazy Cav. So we can debate about that another time. I don't want to keep on bringing that up, but
yeah,
it's always a fun to bring Egypt and just try to change it up and really work with your Cav and just try to hold lines. Naphthatunes and I don't get along so well, but while we're on the topic, Naphthatunes, let's
yeah.
go.
Um, so obviously, as you said, they're very micro heavy, but obviously, if you can get them into the right place, they're extremely deadly. And against factions like the HRE, they're gonna just cause chain routes left, right, and center. So good
Yeah,
unit. Yeah,
what I noticed about the Naphthatunes is what I do with them and a lot of others is that since I can't use them well, I'm not very used to using them, not my forte, but I know what you have to do, it's just that I can't do it really well. You have to get them in a certain distance behind the infantry engagement, just enough so they can throw their pots accurately, but not enough so they get sucked into the melee and actually
yeah,
start fighting with their swords. And if you
yeah.
do, they'll actually do really well at routing every unit that you could think of.
Yeah.
So, and they throw really fast too, like rapid
Well,
fire.
actually, if you go on stainless steel, you'll be amazed how much faster they throw it and how much better they work on that. Like they throw it, it's like it's like a baseball. They throw it that fast. So, um, yeah, it's. I think. Oh yeah, a quick tip as well. Make sure you have the skirmish mode off on
Yes,
the bloody
yes,
Naphthatunes because with them they can't get close enough to throw anything. So you have to have the skirmish mode off.
yes. So very particular unit, very interesting to use, and also very effective in sieges when you have the choke points. Um, borderline overpowered in sieges because it could cause some havoc, routing literally whole masses of infantry. It takes a lot of skill to take him out. If you're fighting against them, you want to take him out quick. But also, if you are Egypt, they are your lifeline a lot of times, and you want to protect them with everything you got.
Yeah.
So, moving on, of course, there is the Hashashim unit, which is probably one of the strongest infantry in the game, right up there with conquistadors and such. It can hide anywhere, which is very useful, even though people don't seem to use that so often. But I've seen a few people get a nice ambush with Hashashim. I've been ambushed with Hashashim, and I'm just like, where the fuck did they come from?
Yeah.
So, have you any nice outtakes with these Hashashim units?
The only thing I'm going to say is they're much more useful in the siege than they are in the field.
That's very true.
That's it. That's all I can say.
It's a small unit. They have 2 hit points, but 30 units, so pretty much equivalent to a 60-unit of infantry, standard size, of course. So they can be surrounded easily, but if you get them in a nice area, like a choke point in the siege, or just on the flank, they will cut down and they won't rout until they're fully surrounded. They are a great unit.
Yeah.
So, any other infantry? There is the Halder militia, or Halberb. Halberd. I can't say
Halberd. Yeah.
Halberd. There you go.
Yeah.
Halberd. I'm sorry for all the times I've mispronounced it in the past, but they do have that, and it will suffice for you. Decent unit, but of course, not the greatest stats and pretty poor morale. So if they are stuck on their own, they will rout. Have you much experience with them?
Well, I remember playing against Criminal Copperkill, and he always used them as anti-cav, so he kind of made a group with Mamluks and Halberd militia, and that seemed to work pretty well. But obviously, it's just infantry by themselves that are just useless. They just die.
I'm pretty sure that Criminal Copperkill uses the super powerful Mamluks because he always beats me, and he's beaten me as other factions too. Which is strange because he's one player that consistently beats me very well. He's a great player, but other than that, the other people that beat me are usually Vlad or someone who's using that crazy Eastern tactic. So,
yeah.
But if you back them up with the Halder militia, you cut down a lot of cav, especially if you get them in away from the charge of the enemy cav.
Yeah.
So I think we should move on to the Desert Archers and Nubian Archers. Now, there is a weird distinction between them. They do have very similar capabilities. I think we can agree that the favorite, though, is the Desert Archer unit. Can we not?
Yeah. I can agree on that, yeah.
Anything to say about them?
Yeah, the Nubian Archers have maces.
Oh, yeah, that's the interesting thing. But they have no other stats to back them up, so they'll still rout. They don't have good morale, so they'll still rout, and luckily, the Desert Archers, they have very good stamina, no good morale. So I would go with the Desert Archers. They're both pretty cheap. Desert Archers are just a little cheaper. They're never going to win you the fight, but they can always do nice support and get pretty good angles in a siege.
Yeah, in a siege, I mean, if you've got a bit of spare money, definitely go for the Nubians because they will do slightly better in melee.
And also a very strong early period unit. Early period is probably one of Egypt's best periods, aside from high period, but high period is unbalanced in so many different ways. I don't want to get into it.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, so many people say it's the best, but that's because it makes a lot of Western factions completely useless, and makes a lot of the Moors almost unbeatable, aside from Egypt.
Byzantium as well.
Yeah, that's true. So I had something to say about Egypt. Do you know what that was? Because I completely forgot it.
What were you saying? Was it?
It had to do with the Desert Archers. Early period unit, yes, very strong because it has the long range missiles that few early period units have, and if you use them well and you just use them as support instead of the main skirmish fight, they can do a number, or at least do. They have good morale effect also with the flaming arrows. A few people have used it. I haven't seen it often enough, but I like to try it every now and again.
Yeah. But I think I'm just going to make a quick point. I think in general you shouldn't really worry too much about the skirmishing capabilities of Egypt because they're not a skirmishing faction at all, and neither are they a siege faction. So all in all, really, skirmishers are a bit useless when it comes to Egypt. Yeah,
Egypt is definitely a rush faction in almost every regard. you gotta be able, but you can always have the desert archers on the side and have your Naphthans on the back. The skirmishers will be fighting with the rush. You're rushing the skirmishers because you're not going to win a standard skirmish in that sense, if that makes any sense to anyone. It makes sense to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand.
There aren't that many unique units that are really worthy of talking about of Egypt because it's very, again, niche, very set few units that you can really use to get you far as them. But they do have Sudanese gunners.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say that.
Yeah. So have you used them at all?
Well, I can say I think their secondary weapon is it a knife, like a dagger? I don't think it's a sword or a mace. It's definitely not a mace, but I think they're quite a weak unit in general. They don't have long range or anything, so they can't really. I think the only reason you'd use them is for a morale penalty and like a siege, maybe. But
on that note, I'm sorry for interrupting you.
It's all right.
Yeah, but I've seen Sudanese gunners used by both Moorish players and Egyptian players in my current rule set, since I'm allowing arquebuses and other decent, not decent, but early gun set of muskets, because that makes like 4 factions usable, or actually 6. But they actually do really well if you get them out in the back or on a flank, or just shooting at the enemy cav, because it will rout the cav. So again, with the Naphthatunes and those gunners, you can actually make a huge morale punch, which is probably what you're going to have to focus on as Egypt, so probably goes hand in hand with them.
Yeah.
So what would you say is the overall cost and balance of Egypt? I know we already clarified it's a rush faction, but anything about the cost that you'd like to say?
So if it's going to be a low money battle, obviously you're going to be focusing most of your money on the cav, because that's where the strength is in the faction. And also a quick point about the halberd militia. They're pretty much completely useless again, as I say, because the cav can win the battle by itself, so you don't need any extra support. You need as much support on the infantry as possible so they can hold the line. And the cav will just do its thing and eventually win, and then you can hammer and anvil, as long as your infantry will hold. But if you try and, for example, if you have 4 Sudanese tribesmen and like some Saracen militia, that's not going to be enough to do anything against dismounted feudals or something like that. So you just stay away from halberd militia. But overall, Egypt is just a really weak faction, but that's why I enjoy using it. It takes quite a lot of skill.
It is a skill-related faction
to use.
Basically, it's all on how you use your cav and the Naphthatunes. It's a little bit of luck with depending on how the Naphthatunes act with you and how you place them is the skill-related part of the Naphthatunes, which I'm abysmal at both luck and skill with Naphthatunes. I will admit that right now. But overall, and balance-wise, I think of course, in comparison to other cav, Egyptian cav is very expensive. But it is balanced out by the fact that Egyptian infantry is rather cheap because it is crap.
Yeah, it is terrible, honestly.
As Egypt, you're not relying on the infantry, you're relying on your cav and your morale boost to just rout the enemy, and then your cav will clean up the routers and do all the work. So overall, I think it's pretty cost-effective in a balance. Even if you skirmish, the cost-effective early period-wise. Of course, I wouldn't advise really trying to go for the skirmish on an often basis unless you're feeling particularly bold. So any final points that you really want to stress about Egypt?
All right, so if you want to go slightly off point about vanilla, so if you go to the Teutonic expansion, the Royal Mamluks only have like 10 attack, 16 defense or something, and the Ritterbruder have 11 attack, 20 defense, so just a note of caution, they're not as strong on the expansion. And overall, I think Egypt's a really fun faction to use, and you should definitely try it. It's definitely a challenge to try and beat. For example, Spain, it's just such an obvious faction bias. It's just enjoyable to try and beat players as a much worse faction. But yeah, just don't waste too much money when it comes to infantry, and just chuck it all into the cav, and you should do all right. I think that's all I can say.
Yeah. But on that note, chucking all the money into cav, again, my final point, and I have to stress it, if you're going to do fully upgraded Mamluks with the 2 armor and the attack, and you render them to a point as like heavy infantry on horseback, they literally run over everything, including cav, and I don't think it makes any sense, and it shouldn't. The only thing that can stop them is pikes, but even then, You can't make a pike box because the Naphthatunes will melt that away in seconds. So there's literally nothing that you can do to stop it. So I have no respect for you if you use super upgraded Mamluks.
But can I just say, I only use the armor, not the attack upgrade, so I'm not that person.
Yeah, so if you use limited upgrades, that's fine. But if you go all the way, that's when they get out of hand. So I would say if you do 1 or 2 upgrades, like doing an armor and attack, that's all right, a little stretchy. If you're doing armors, those are fine. So it's all depending. Just don't go all the way. I'll hate you, personally, deeply down in my heart. So thank you, Kipika, for coming here and talking about Egypt, especially on this short notice that I gave you.
No problem.
Yeah, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, I know some of you want to see some background, but I really don't have this kind of time because either I'm just trying to get some stress on my head and playing some games, or I'm writing college essays right now. So you get the nice little background of the Egypt logo. So thank you all for watching. I hope you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye, my friends.
Peace.
Yep.